Hello, Tar Heel Nation. Welcome back to another UNC Hoops Talk. I'm your host, Dan DeWitt. We're back with the 196th episode of UNC Hoops Talk podcast. Again, it's been too slow here ramping back up for the new season, but we are almost a month away from the first game. Tar Heels just started practice, so we're starting to get some videos. We're starting to get some stuff, some news kind of leaked out or talked about at least. And it is really exciting. I'm still kind of a little nervous about what's all going to happen with this season, but we do got quite a bit to talk about this season or this episode. This is the players prediction episode, so I'm going to kind of go through and give my generalized prediction for the players. Maybe not all of them, maybe lump some in, especially walk-ons and stuff that I feel maybe won't get as much playing time. And I don't know that I'll give exact numbers that I'm going to try to predict, but hopefully ranges at least as we go through. We'll see how it goes as I go through. I didn't write that stuff down, but before we get to that, there are some big news in college basketball. And before we get to that, we have a little bit of news for UNC Hoops. We have a couple of opponents for this season. The opening game, November 25th, first day that you can have college basketball. It'll be the opening day. North Carolina will be playing the College of Charleston in Chapel Hill in the Dean Smith Center. So that's pretty exciting to kind of know who the opener is. Obviously, it's a little nervous as well. We opened with Notre Dame last year, but we did have these scrimmages and stuff like that. We got a lot of new guys this year, so that comes with a little anxiety, I guess. Probably at least probably two starters being freshmen, depending how the preseason goes here in practice. Of course, we don't know that kind of stuff without those scrimmages and without being able to see them and stuff, just going off tape. So that'll be interesting. And then we also know that in the Maui tournament, that is in Asheville, so I guess maybe the Asheville tournament, the Tar Heels will start against UNLV. And then, as I think that bracket may be out, but we're not going to go through that in this podcast. If we get more of a schedule and we can go through a schedule, in November or something before the season starts, try to do that. But we do start or open against UNLV in the Maui Invitational, which is in Asheville. So that's the Carolina basketball news. College basketball news, some big stuff. The council, the NCAA council or whatever, met again. And so this stuff still has to be voted on, but it is expected to be passed and approved and whatever. I think it's in January where it kind of gets approved. But they approved that all basketball players, I think this is only for basketball because it goes sport by sport. It's different. Some already have this. And I don't know if football will get it or, what will happen. But all basketball players will have the option to transfer one time without sitting out a year. So it can be any time in your 4 years. Obviously, I believe anyway that grad transfer will be separate. I don't know how that's going to be affected. If you could transfer one time and then still graduate, have a year of eligibility, and transfer again without sitting out, I don't know how that'll be affected. I don't know that they even addressed that. But one time in your 4 years, you will be able to transfer and not sit out a year for whatever reason. Obviously, a lot of people are getting waivers this year. People have gotten some waivers. It used to be if you were going back home because a parent was sick, whatever, to be closer to home with a sick parent or whatever, you had a reason, they would give you a waiver to do that. Now it seems like everybody's getting a waiver, and maybe that's because this rule is coming into place. But you get, after your freshman year, you're not getting the playing time you want, transfer, you don't have to sit out a year. And you can go anywhere. So that'll be kind of an interesting one. Will we get more transfers, or will people, freshman year doesn't go as well, but you're going to stick it out another year to see how that goes, and or maybe play better so that you can transfer up to a bigger school. Obviously, mid-majors can be affected by this a lot. They got a freshman comes in, plays really well, transfers up to a bigger school and gets to play right away. Doesn't have to sit out that year. So interesting rule there. The other one, maybe more immediate, bigger impact, won't have the long-term effects that does, but maybe immediately a bigger impact is that I believe, as it read, all winter sport athletes will get an extra year because of how last season ended. I believe it's because of last season, which kind of screws the seniors that just graduated, but the people that had their junior year affected, and they don't know how obviously this year is going to go, but they're giving those people, and I don't know if they said just the seniors. As I think about it, you would think only the seniors would get that extra year, they'd come back, but I don't know that it says that. We'll have to kind of keep our eyes and ears open for that. If somebody knows, they can let me know here or on Twitter. But yeah, because it would be interesting. Obviously, now we know we could have a 5th year of Garrison Brooks. He could play this season fully healthy, all the games, choose to come back next year and have another year. Which, yeah, obviously I believe he's not the only senior here. I got the roster pulled up here. Let's see here. We could have Andrew Playtek back for an extra year, which seems like maybe someone that would take advantage of that. We'll talk about that as we go through the season. Obviously, Garrison Brooks. I talked about Walker Miller. If he wanted to come back, he could. KJ Smith is a redshirt senior, I believe. Again, he would still have that option. I don't know how that affects the juniors. Does Leaky Black go back to being another junior or having like 2 years left of eligibility after this? Could we get our freshmen? Could you look ahead and say, well, they still have 5 years to play this year and 4 more? I don't know how that how that's going to play out or how that affects it, but yeah, so that'll be interesting. Something to keep our eyes and ears on. Again, that can affect next year's recruiting class because they don't know. A big guy. We're already pretty stacked. We got Walker Kessler coming in. We got Dayron Sharp. We still have Armando Baycott. If they say, well, Garrison Brooks come back, they've got 4 big guys. There's no reason for me to go there, or even a point guard. Well, Caleb Love could come back anyway, but that's not going to affect it. But other teams, like point guard signs because they expect somebody to leave or because they're a senior, and they decide to come back and play a 5th year. And plus obviously scholarships. We got and you do get whatever amount more over the 13. So you can have 13 scholarship players normally. Say Armando and Playtech come back next year, we would get 13 plus those 2, so we could have 15 guys. Which, again, playing time. We know that Roy plays more than normal as far as his rotation, but with 13 players, he plays 9, maybe 10 guys in a rotation. That 10th guy maybe a little bit less playing time. If you got that's with 13 players. You got 15 players, and you're bringing back a 5th year Garrison Brooks. Like he's going to take a lot of minutes. Where do those minutes go for those incoming freshmen? Maybe they redshirt then, but again, who redshirts as a freshman nowadays? So yeah, that'll be an interesting one. Big news for college basketball. Again, those things still have to be passed in January at the meeting, but that is what the NCAA council has kind of come out and recommended or submitted to, I guess, whoever this is that votes on it. I don't even know who votes on it, but so we got Hannibal watching here on YouTube. Says, my guy, when I see you, I know it's almost that time. And it is almost that time. Normally we would be starting, we would probably have late night for Roy already. Usually that's somewhere in like the teens of October. So we're at October 20 right now when I'm recording this. So normally late night with Roy would have happened. We would probably be a day, 2 days, 3 days away from a scrimmage or an exhibition game. And yeah, the season would be here in a week and a half, 2 weeks. We do have a little bit longer now. We got just over a month until the season starts on November 25th, but it is time here. And so we're going to jump into my player predictions. So I'm going to kind of first start through what I feel is going to be the starting lineup. We went through that with Blake from Keeping It Heel on a past podcast. If you missed that, go back, check it out. That was a good one. To kind of just hash out who we think is going to be starting, who's going to be, in contention, get playing time, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go through my starting lineup and kind of just, again, my predictions. So the easiest one to start off with is obviously Garrison Brooks. He's going to be starting. He's going to be playing lots of minutes. I feel he's going to have a solid, he's probably going to be, I don't think they've announced him yet, but ACC first player, All-American, whatever it's called, first team of the ACC preseason. He could be, I don't know if he'll quite make the first team All-American team preseason team, but he should be on the second team for sure, I would think, nationwide. The season had it. Now, as far as stats go, again, I don't know what he averaged last year. I don't have that stuff in front of me. But I do feel his numbers may drop off from last year. He may not score. I don't know what he averaged, 20-some points. He may not average as many points. I think he'll still have some games where he goes off and has, 20 and 18 for the game, 20 points, 18 rebounds, whatever. He'll have some big time games. But I think overall his averages, his rebounds, his points will go down. Maybe even his minutes go down because he had to play so many last year. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. And really, he could be more effective. If you remember his first 2 years, Roy talked about his defense over and over and over. And, he was winning these defensive player years. Last year, I think his defense suffered a little bit because he was tired. He was playing so many minutes and he had to focus so much on offense. So numbers wise, I think Garrison Brooks could go down. But overall, I think that's a good thing. He's going to have a solid season. He's going to get a lot of attention, but also there's enough guys on our team that they can't just be doubling. Towards the end of last year, everybody knew the offense was going through Garrison, and it made it really hard on him. It was pretty much him and Cole that people worried about. So I think we got enough people here. It may even open up. Maybe his numbers are close because of that, because stuff is opened up because they can't double him as much, or other people are going to get those points. So alongside Garrison in the post is, I'm guessing, Armando Bacot, unless there's been a ton of talk about Day'Ron Sharp and how much of a beast he is in the post so far in practice and just scrimmages, open gyms, whatever you want to call it. But I don't think Roy's going to start him. I think Bacot will still start. I think Bacot, again, is going to really enjoy or flourish because he doesn't have to play as many minutes. He doesn't have to be as counted on. He can maybe even play a little bit harder, not worry about fouling out over, because we're so deep in the post. And I think his numbers will be better because he's not playing tired and things like that. So his numbers, I think, will go up. Again, it's so hard because you don't know how many minutes they're going to play because we're going to be so deep in the post. It kind of depends how Kessler looks in the preseason. If he's going to get, be counted on by Roy, if Roy trusts him enough to play him those minutes. Day'Ron Sharp, I think, sounds like he's going to get plenty of minutes, going to get plenty of rebounds. Bacot, is again going to own the post. Rebounding is wise. Block shots, I think he's going to really be effective there. If he can give us 10 points a game, 8 rebounds a game, I think we're looking pretty good there with that. So that's the back, or the front court. Then in the back court, I think we all kind of assume and think and know that Caleb Love is going to start at point guard. I listened to the Carolina Inside podcast this morning, and Leaky Black was kind of going through all the freshmen and what he's seen from them in practice and open gyms and stuff. Says his confidence is just so high, and doesn't feel like he has to score and be all that, but he's got the aggressive nature and the confidence to be scoring and to make a lot of buckets. So I'm going to say he's probably our second leading scorer. Gosh, he may even be our leading scorer over Garrison Brooks, but I think him and Garrison are going to really put up some numbers. But really, to go along with Caleb Love, RJ Davis can really score the ball. Caleb Love can facilitate, and I think he'll run and he'll get his points. Like I said, I think he's going to be up there, but RJ Davis is such a scorer as well. I think between those three, Garrison Brooks, RJ Davis, Caleb Love, any of those three will lead us in scoring on any given night. Not that anybody else can't, but the majority of the nights, I think those are going to be our leaders. And Caleb, again, I hope that he's got the assist to go with it. And again, being a freshman, not getting those exhibition games, not getting the scrimmages to open up with College of Charleston, and just to be in such a weird season. I hope that he comes along quickly, and it sounds like he's got the confidence to do it. And hopefully Roy kind of lets him go and he does his thing. But I think he'll get his numbers and hopefully help others get their numbers as well, being RJ Davis as well. Leaky, again, on that podcast, talked about how he has to make 130 shots before he leaves the gym and how that's affected other guys as well, but just how incredible that is. So I think RJ's really going to get some open looks again from from teams going down, doubling Garrison Brooks and whatnot. RJ Davis hopefully will get some open looks and knock down his. I think that's our backcourt is Caleb Love, RJ Davis to go along with Garrison and Armando in the post. And the last starter is Leaky Black. Again, we know what Leaky's done. We've seen, we've talked about what he could do. He's just so versatile. Can really fill the stat sheet between getting some points, being a rebounder, playing defense, steals, assists as well. I think Leaky Black may lead this team in assists. I think Caleb Love can do it, but Leaky Black will be right there, I think, as well, if he progresses. Now, the thing is, he's already a junior. We've talked about it for 2 years now, and I know he's had injuries. Roy has mentioned those a lot, and we've seen it. He just hasn't had, he ended his freshman year early, didn't get, all those games in the ACC to kind of develop. He was beat up last year, and we didn't have a lot of guys to let him rest and to get over those injuries. So if he's healthy, we say, oh, he should make that jump. But we've also, so many times it feels like teams are rated high because they say, well, they had a Sweet 16 team and they bring everybody back. Well, if they don't make that jump, they're still a Sweet 16 team. They got the same players that lost in the Sweet 16 or whatever. So many times people are overhyped, I think, because everybody comes back, but people have to improve. Hopefully Leaky has, but at some point too, you kind of say he is what he is. Again, on that podcast I listened to this morning with Adam Lucas and Jones Angel, Leaky was saying he's been working with Hubert Davis and getting up shots, and his shot looks better. Everybody's saying his shot looks better, and obviously that would be a huge asset to this team if we can have RJ Davis knocking down those shots. If Leaky can, even be consistent, so that teams have to play him honestly. With Caleb Love, driving and he can shoot, and then we got those big guys in the post. Like, that's a dangerous team. We need him to do that. But also, I think he's going to also be playing defense on the other team's best player every night, and that can wear on you, and that can affect your offensive game. And we may not, we don't need Leaky on offense hopefully this year because those other guys are scoring and knocking down shots and stuff. So I don't know if I expect a huge jump. Again, hopefully there is a jump, at least in his percentages, that he's knocking down the open shots, and that then teams have to play him honest. He doesn't get those open shots. His stats kind of stay where they are, but I think there may be a little boost in those. But I do kind of look and see that I feel like Leaky Black could be the leading assist guy on this team. So something to watch out for there. Let's go back into the post. Kind of first off the bench, I've mentioned him already, Davion Sharp. I think he'll be the first one off the bench. It sounds like he is just an absolute beast so far in the preseason and as we've started practice, and we're going to see a lot of him, and he's just a big dude, going to get a lot of rebounds. Again, I don't know what his offensive game looks like. I think he's got some work to do there. So I don't know that we're going to expect a lot from him scoring-wise, just dunks pretty much. And putbacks and not going to run our offense through him probably. So if we can get 6-8 points from him and then get 8 to 10 rebounds from him, I think we're getting exactly what we want out of him. And then coming in with Sharp, I think not getting as many minutes, but 7-1 Walker Kessler can step out a little bit more. And as long as he's able to kind of pound a little bit with the big guys in the post, and we know that the game's kind of going away from that, so not every team has as many big guys in the post. But Walker Kessler, if he can kind of hold his own on the defense, if he can pick everything up, I think Roy can use him as kind of a step away, which is kind of silly. He's a 7-footer, 7'1", tallest guy on the team, but we're talking about using him as the step out 4 or 5, kind of like the Luke May, not to that extent, but he can step out and knock down some shots and hopefully affect guys' shots on defense just being that tall. But his offensive game is a little bit more advanced than Davion Sharp, so I feel like he can, if he gets the playing time, average about the same or even more than Davion Sharp. But I don't know if his rebounds, he should be able to get some, being 7'1" out there, but we know it's not all about height either. So yeah, it'll be interesting between Davion Sharp, Walker Kessler. If we can get 12 points, 12 rebounds, something like that every game, we're doing pretty well there off the bench. Let's see. Well, backup point guard, we're looking at probably RJ Davis coming over to give Caleb Love a break. Maybe Leaky Black a little bit. I think we've seen that Leaky Black isn't the point guard that we need. Not that he can't handle the ball, but we got that. KJ Smith may see some minutes there if Caleb Love is in foul trouble, if we have any injuries, anything like that, give him a breather. I don't expect him to maybe even see the floor as much as he did last year just because of that. We know Cole had some injuries, though, so we never know what's going to happen with that. So we do have KJ Smith there to play a little bit. Otherwise, guard-wise, we got Anthony Harris coming back, and there has been talk that Harris could be starting instead of RJ Davis. Kind of just depends. He's pretty much a freshman here. He's a redshirt freshman. He saw, what I think it was less than 5 games that he played. Kind of more depends probably on his knee, on his leg, his recovery and stuff. It sounds like it's going well. It sounds like he's doing well. Again, another guy that can put pressure on teams that want to double Garrison Brooks because he's able to knock down the shot. But he does have a pretty overall game. He looks so good in those few games we got. I know it's a small sample size, but looked really good in those games we did see. So excited to see that. Hopefully he's healthy. And obviously he could jump into that starting spot over RJ Davis. And, again, though, especially if RJ has to be the backup point guard for Caleb Love, maybe that happens. But I think they can be interchangeable and really give each other breathers. And I think Anthony Harris can be very effective defensively as well. If we need to have a defensive team out there, between Leaky Black, Anthony Harris, our big guys, it's more than likely going to be Caleb Love as much as he can go. But Anthony Harris, I think, look to have, again, if he's healthy, if he gives us, again, 8 to 10 points or something like that, especially if he's off the bench. If he's starting, maybe we expect to get, 13 to 16 points out of him. Again, another rebounding. I think he can be a rebounding guard for us as well. And then we also have Andrew Playtek on the wing or guard position. Early on, again, because of this weird season, we don't have the exhibitions, we don't have the scrimmages. Andrew Playtek maybe gets a little bit more playing time. It's kind of how it goes every year, right? He gets some playing time early in the non-conference, and then it kind of dwindles down a little bit. Last year he had a little bit more because, again, of injuries and the crazy year we had last year. But I don't think there's a huge spot for Andrew unless he can really start knocking down the 3 that he was advertised to knock down when he came in. He's going to have to be really confident. He's going to have a quick release to get his shot off because he is smaller. And he's going to have the confidence to do it. And then he's going to have to actually knock it down to kind of gain that playing time. But to me, I don't see with our depth here, unless there's injuries or something like that, a ton of stats. Even if he's got 5 to 6 minutes a game, I don't know that there's a lot of stats for him to put up. And then we do have, I guess, a few guys here yet that really could get some playing time. So in the post, we go back to the post. We got Sterling Manley yet, if he can be healthy. We have Walker Miller as well. Kind of like with Andrew Playtek, I don't see Walker Miller making a big impact or having much impact or role on this team. Sterling Manley, again, we're so deep. I know he's been here. He's been in the system. Maybe that puts him ahead of Walker Kessler. But he really hasn't played basketball in a couple of years here. So it's going to be really tough to give him quality minutes and to depend on him. I think he can be really athletic. He can definitely help us defensively. But again, it all comes down to his knees, if they can hold up and allow him to do what he's able to do. So, kind of holding judgment there on Sterling Manley until we see a few games out of him and see what he looks like out there in a basketball game again after almost 2 years probably of really playing competitive basketball. So, and then we have a couple other freshmen. Yeah, we got Puff Johnson and Kerwin Walton. And these guys, I think, if one of them can step up and give us some more minutes on the wing there, both kind of shooters. I think Kerwin Walton is probably a little bit farther along than Puff Johnson. But again, we need the outside shooters. We saw that last year. Both of these guys kind of come in with that ability. But we've also seen, Kenny Williams come in and struggled a little bit. Well, his freshman year, he made like one, not that we needed him to, didn't count on him. But Andrew Playtek come in as a shooter, hasn't panned out that way. So we need one of these guys, and we'll see if they both are there and get the minutes. I think that's how it's going to go early. Is Roy's going to give them both chances, and we'll see who takes advantage of it, who knocks down open shots, who contributes on the defensive end as well. With that, we know that Roy really judges on that as well. Puff Johnson could help us on the post as well. If we go small, I could kind of see us. I know we got a lot of guys available in the post, but if we ever want to go small, he's 6'8". Puff Johnson can play that 4, I think, kind of like Cam did. Still get some rebounds and leak out on the break. Take off with the dribble after a rebound and just go and start the fast break. So I think he could be effective there. Again, it's just kind of how they pick up the system, if they're ready, if Roy trusts them, and then when they come in, that they knock down shots. But between the two of them, again, if we can knock down 3-4 threes, probably not every game, but if we can get 2 to 4 threes from these guys every game, we're probably about where we need to be there. And then I think the only guys I haven't listed are Creighton Lebo, the son of Jeff Lebo. Is a preferred walk-on, I think is what it's called. So he's not a scholarship player. Again, I don't feel like in this game, on this team, there's much of a role there for him. And then we got Ryan Mcadoo as well, redshirt junior. He's been there. Again, we're not going to spend time on him really. No offense. But it's going to be an exciting year. Obviously, we're ready to get back to basketball after last year's season and how it ended, how it went, the whole thing, and then this whole pandemic and pushing the season back and just kind of the anxiety of we don't know what's going to happen. Some of this semi-bubble stuff, whatever is going to happen with college basketball, going to be really interesting this year. But hopefully I didn't ramble too much, and hopefully I gave some takes there to where you can either agree with me or completely disagree. And I'd love to hear if you disagree with me, either in the comments of this YouTube video or connect with me on Twitter, Instagram. It's at @AllTarHeelDan. They're in the description as well. But if you're not connected with me, please connect and let's have this discussion. Let's get into basketball talk. Here looks great. I know they just lost to Florida State at home, and they shouldn't have, and all that stuff. Their season's going to keep going. I think they're going to keep getting better. But this is a basketball podcast, and really that's what gets my blood going. Really is college basketball and Tar Heel basketball. So if you really want to talk to me, that's what we need to be focusing on. So not to overshadow the football guys and the football season, but so excited for this college basketball season, this team, what it can be, and I've always said on this podcast, I'll discuss it with anybody, anywhere, anytime. So would love to hear your feedback on predictions and what you think guys are going to be able to do this year. So before we close out, it's pretty much all I got there. That's my predictions. I would get, usually we do a season prediction as far as going through the schedule and what we're going to win, what we're going to lose, but I don't think we're really going to get a full schedule put out, and I don't know that we're going to play it all. So I don't know that we're going to do that. If we ever do get a schedule put out, we'll definitely jump on and talk about it here on the podcast. I'll get Gil back or Blake back or something, and we'll discuss that and kind of go through it. But we probably won't do a predictions podcast like we did in the past. Usually I get your guys' predictions as well, and we go through all those so that we hold each other accountable. But I don't know that we're going to be able to do that this year. Before we do close out, though, Hannibal has got a couple more comments here on the YouTube live. And if you're not subscribed already, encourage you to subscribe on YouTube and hit the little bell so you're notified. I don't have a set schedule, as you can probably tell, especially during this whole pandemic stuff. It's been very erratic and been way too long in between podcasts. I realize that, and I hate it as well. But if you hit that bell, you're notified when I go live. You can actually watch the live show on YouTube and comment as we're going. And of course, we'll hit those comments. But Hannibal says, if we could get some 3-point shooting with our bigs dominating the boards as usual, we'll be very dangerous. Yeah, I mean, that's what was missing last year. We had the bigs, not the depth that we have this year, but we didn't have the shooting last year. Cole had his moments, and I'm trying to think that's about all we had from the outside anyway. So What are they saying about Puff? If he's anything like his brother, look out. And again, I listened to that Inside podcast. I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you probably listen to Jones and Adam as well. And so if you haven't heard it already, you can listen. But Leakey was going through the freshman. He said Puff says the same stuff, everything exactly like Cam, except he's left-handed. Now, if that translates into on the court stuff like Cam was as well, definitely look out. But remember, we got Cam Johnson his third and fourth year, or fourth and fifth year, something like that. I think it was third and fourth year. Well, he had redshirted, so he had been in college 3 years already. We got his third and fourth year playing in college. So obviously he was developed in that sense. He had played in the ACC. He knew what to expect. But yeah, I mean, if Puff can, I mean, Cam Johnson had some nice games at Pitt, even against Carolina. He had a really good game, and that was part of why Roy took him when he did transfer. But if he can have some of those games this year, and then as he gets to be a junior, senior, do what Cam did, definitely look out. And he's got the ability, like I said, he's got the height. He's got to get the system down. He's got to gain the trust of Roy and all that good stuff, just like any of the other freshmen as well. But it's definitely there if he wants it, and there's definitely playing time and shots to be had, and hopefully we knock him down. So we definitely need the 3-point shooting, and we'll be good. We're definitely going to dominate the boards. Offensive boards again should be really big for us this year. I'm pointing out the obvious at this point. So that is all I got for you guys again this year, or this month, this week. I don't know what the podcasting schedule is going to look like going forward. Obviously, we got the first game, the 25th. We'll talk about that before it happens. We'll discuss it afterwards, and we'll go from there, I guess. I don't know exactly when we're going to get into a weekly podcast here, but I'm ready for it. I'm excited, and I hope you guys will join me. Subscribe wherever you're listening to this, and join the journey of this basketball season, however crazy or whatever it looks like. But it's going to be fun, and as always, go Heels.